SpotlightMediaStudios.com. Welcome to Education Unfiltered. Here is Mary Stucco.
Hello, this is Mary Stucco with Education Unfiltered, where we talk about all things higher ed. And today we are joined by Jennifer Rumler, who is the Managing Director and faculty member of the Sales Leadership Minor at Michigan State. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So tell me, what is the Sales Leadership Minor?
It is something that is the brainchild of some of the alumni from the College of Communication Arts and Sciences at Michigan State. About 15 years ago, they were all sitting around the table talking about how this person was in sales and that person was in sales, and then they realized, wow, sales is something that a lot of the graduates of communication arts and sciences go into, but there wasn't really a curriculum for it. So they took it up the chain. They talked to the dean at the time and said, hey, could we get a sales curriculum going at Michigan State? And the dean turned it over to the communication department, who partnered with the Broad College of Business with a faculty member in the marketing department. And fast forward about 5 or 6 years, and I came on board in 2008. They handed me the curriculum and said, here it is, make it happen. And we went live in January of 2009, and we've been going strong ever since.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing what you've done with the program. So tell me, when a student enters into that minor, what is their curriculum going to look like?
Pretty much students find out about us between their sophomore and junior year. And I do a lot of going into classes and talking about the minor. It was designed for communication and marketing students, but in reality, once we went live, we were attracting students from all over the university. So students who were studying kinesiology, for instance, who wanted to go into medical device sales, students who were studying applied engineering sciences who wanted to pick up a technical sales concentration, or the student studying dietetics or biology who kind of decided against going to medical school and decided that they wanted to go into health nutritionals or pharmaceutical sales. So we get a wide range of students, and they take our foundational course, which is called Marketing 313, Consultative Selling. And once they get into that class at mid-semester, they have the opportunity to apply for the minor. And at that point, I get their applications. They have to send me a copy of their resume. They have to provide a statement of purpose. They take a sales assessment, and they also have to come in and do a personal interview with me. And part of that interview includes a business-to-business sales role play. So there are a lot of hoops that they have to jump through in order to get into this program. So it's not like an open enrollment program at other universities. They really have to want to go into this, which is very attractive to corporate partners, because instead of getting a candidate who's taking a sales job as a default, they're getting students who have self-selected into sales and who are going into sales as a destination.
That's fantastic. And that kind of transitions me into the next question is, how is this program paid for?
It is paid for by my colleagues and I selling it. This is not funded by the university, one of very few programs at Michigan State that is not funded by the university. And I have to sell corporate partnerships. And truly the value proposition in all of that is that most companies, based on our research, have said that onboarding a salesperson to the point where they're generating revenue for the company, that training and development of that salesperson costs anywhere from $50,000 to $300,000, depending on the industry. So if a company partners with us at either the $10,000 level, $25,000 or $50,000 level a year, if, for instance, the lowest point of that estimate of training a student to be productive in sales is $10,000, and they pay $10,000 or $50,000, and they pay $10,000 to get on board with us, it actually is a really good ROI if that candidate has very strong role awareness and goes into that sales position knowing that, oh, I do have to pick up the phone and call people. I do have to hit the pavement. So it makes it very valuable to companies, particularly if that candidate stays past a year.
Right. I know it's really wonderful that Michigan State identified the need for this, because I was a graduate from Michigan State in the communication arts and sciences that went into sales and never had a sales class beforehand. And
exactly.
You and I have known each other a long time because I've worked with many of your students as interns when I owned my own insurance agency. And what's funny about that is I don't know how many dozens of students from Michigan State in that program. And none of them wanted to go into insurance, and it's amazing to me how many of them are in insurance now. In some variety of insurance, but it's because they finally had that exposure of something like, why would I want to do that? And then they got a chance to see it, and then they're like, oh, okay, now I see why people actually want to have a job in this career. So it was a very interesting experience, but I think it's so valuable of what you all do to encourage people to get into the program. It's a very elite program. I mean, it's well known as within Michigan State itself as one of the best specializations you can get into as far as the interview process. It's just a higher caliber of student, quite honestly.
Yes, definitely.
So the first funder of this minor was?
Well, coincidentally, Farm Bureau Insurance. And the person who essentially made that happen was Jack Stucco. You may have heard of him.
Yeah, my dad.
Jack was very influential in the education portion of Farm Bureau Insurance, so clearly the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I think Jack had been at some kind of seminar and heard about this new trend in sales education, because sales typically was not taught as an academic subject at a university. And in fact, back in 2008, when I was researching other sales programs, there were only about 40 nationwide. And now there's probably 160 in the country. That's how much it's grown in those 12 years.
Given how much sales goes actually on in this country, there's like no place to actually learn about it. You got to figure it out on your own.
Yes, Jack was on the cutting edge of that, and he got together with another faculty member who helped develop the program, Bill Donahue, and Jack really was able to convince Farm Bureau Insurance of the importance of this type of education, and they provided all the seed money for us to get this started before we were even a known entity or graduated a single student. So that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's wonderful that this happened. And now you have about 15 partners, different companies that are working with you.
Yes.
Now, this goes way beyond just, the partnering and having the funding to pay for this. You guys have done a lot as far as competing. This is like a sport. It should probably be on ESPN since there's nothing else going on right now. But tell me about, how MSU is standing out with this program.
Well, there are several national competitions, and because there are so many, we pretty much narrow it down to two. And the first one we attended was the National Team Selling Competition at Indiana University, and it was before we were even an official program, so that was in 2008. We went to that competition, and we came away with the championship. And we were kind of shaking our heads and thinking, okay, is this a fluke? What's going on? So we went back in 2009, came away with the championship again. And 2010, there were other schools who were gunning for us, and the students reported that there were students from other universities going, oh, Michigan State, you think you're going to win this again? And so we came in third that year, but the following year we went back and we won it again. So we have won the National Team Selling Competition 5 times in the last 11 years. And the other competition that we take part in takes place at Kennesaw State University north of Atlanta. and that is an individual selling competition that is tournament style. And we have won that outright, the championship, twice, and routinely place in the top 10. And that's among 162 different schools nationwide. So we've done pretty well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think sometimes it's good to lose so that we, get humbled a little bit and know we have to work
absolutely.
a little harder. So
Yeah.
that's very impressive. Over the last 10, 11 years that this program's been operating, what is your job placement ratio?
We have had 100% job placement the last 10 out of 11 years. And truly, that's because the students are so well prepared for going into a sales role. Sometimes the students hear 100% job placement, I'm all over it, and they want in for that as if a job just magically lands in their lap, which is clearly not the case. But part of our curriculum, in addition to the coursework that they have to do, so that intro sales course, I teach a course in advanced sales communication. There is a sales management course. The students are required to do a professional sales internship. And like you said, several of the students have interned in your office when you had your Farm Bureau insurance agency. But they're also required to do a total of 500 hours of experiential learning outside of the classroom. So that includes things like job shadows with either a salesperson or a sales manager. They have to work with a mentor for a semester. They have to take part in the All MSU sales competition, which happens annually in the spring. We also have a professional development conference in the fall. There's also a specific sales career fair for companies who are looking to hire salespeople. So they are, I guess I would say the typical college student is very happy to be a wallflower at networking events. Mm-hmm. And they'd be even happier if they could be on the couch binge watching Netflix. And so essentially what I do is I make them do things that they don't ordinarily do on their own, but the result of that is that they are so well prepared going into a sales role that they get scooped up very, very fast.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. And I know working with your students, you push them really hard, but I never heard any of them complain in a bad way about it, because you were helping develop a lot of those soft skills. And that's really what does make them stand out, is that they really they're very genuine students. They're when we think of salespeople, you think of the insurance agent like myself, or
right.
a car sales. But that's not the kind of person you want to do business with. You want to work
right.
with those people, and that's where your students lie. I mean, they're just so phenomenal, and they're caring, and they're just very well-rounded.
Well, if you remember, I started out my sales career in insurance as well.
Oh, that's right.
So I know what that negative stereotype is of the typical salesperson. And so sometimes it's educating the student what sales is and helping them educate their parents, because their parents are thinking, oh, I don't want my kid to be some schlucky salesperson, not knowing how sophisticated and complicated sales can be. And so once they get that, then there's no going back.
Yeah. Now tell me, so with this bachelor's degree program, what can a student who graduates with the minor in sales expect to make upon graduation?
Well, based on our exit interview reporting from our students, the average starting salary for a student who graduates with this minor is $60,000 plus commission. And obviously that there is a larger range. Some start closer in the 40s, but they have a higher commission structure. Some start in the 80s, but don't necessarily work on commission. So there's really a wide range. But there are opportunities in inside sales, outside sales, territory sales, pretty much anything that if you were to look around your home or your office, something has to get sold by somebody at some point. And these students become the face of their companies that they go to work for. And so in order to represent that company, they have to be very well trained. particularly in ethics and honesty. We really focus on corporate social responsibility. I began adding content into my class on diversity and inclusion probably 6 or 7 years ago, and recent events really have forced us to examine that very closely. So our student group, Global Sales Leadership Society, has made it a priority where we will be doing boot camps with our corporate partners on diversity and inclusion in the workforce, particularly in the sales force, to prepare these new professionals for what they're going to be facing in the real world, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's so timely and so important. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us today. This is Mary Stucco with Education Unfiltered. Thank you for joining us.